this is something that it does apply to the Bucks, but it also applies to the league as a whole. You mentioned it when you talked about the Western Conference, and you mentioned Jamal Murray, and he tore his ACL the other day. He's done for the year, pretty much crushing Denver's chances. And I wanted to pose the question to you, to anybody who's watching, anybody who's going to view this in the future, should the NBA consider a shorter season? And it does apply to the Bucks. Giannis is now missing his 6th straight game. I want to get your opinion on it. What do you think? Should the NBA shorten the season?
So this is kind of a tough question to answer because, we're in the days of Kawhi sitting out all those games and load managing, and now Giannis, like you said, sitting out his 6th straight game. Update on that. Giannis apparently said he was itching to get back to Chris Middleton, so we probably see him tomorrow night. But I do not think so. I do not think, 82 games, it's a basketball season. I think maybe just, because the reason you bring up this question is because you don't want to see people load managing, right? That's right. The main reason you bring this up. I think maybe just come with some real severe penalties because, all right, I'm just going to give an answer from the heart. I spent a lot of money on these tickets to go to the game on Thursday. I got that money, that stimulus check, so I had the money, all my bills are paid up, whatever. But it's going to be my stepson's first game, and my stepson is 8 years old. And, he's at that age where, he wants to be into basketball. I'm teaching him about it. He's starting to learn players' names, their moves, all this stuff, right? So it's going to be his first game. It's going to be my girlfriend's first game. It's going to be my girlfriend's little sister's first game. So for all of them, I want Giannis to play. I've seen Giannis play live. I've seen the Bucks win games live. I've been to playoff games. Me and you went to that playoff game against Toronto. I've seen it all. So to me, it's just a basketball game, and I can enjoy it without Giannis. Will it suck without Giannis? Yeah, because I want to watch a 7-foot guy run up and down the floor really fast in 3 steps and jump over people. But for them, it would really suck because now they're not going to get the full experience. So I saw a quote from Robbie Now the other day. It was shared on Kristen Yelich's Instagram where he talked about, he did an interview and it was about 5 minutes long, but the gist of the conversation was, don't think that it's ever about you. He talked about how that could be, there could be a little kid in the stands and it could be his last ever game seeing you play. So that's the stance that I'm looking at it from my stepson because he's 8 years old. He's never been to a Bucks game. He never really had anybody in his life that was into sports like I am. So for him alone, I want Giannis to play. I don't want the load managing thing. So that's why I think you don't shorten the season because there's 82 games. It's how it's been my whole life. And I'm one of those people, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And, the load managing thing, I understand the injury because of Murray. He just got hurt. So that might make the Bucks be like, our title chances will be over if we don't have Giannis. And, I understand that. What happened to the Warriors? The Warriors were stacked, right, when they went against Toronto in the finals. And they lost, Thompson went down and then Durant went down and their title chances were like, they went to poo-poo. So I understand the team's point of investing all this money and trying to win a championship and all that, blah, blah, blah. But for me, I think the season should be 82 games. I think Silver's got to figure out a way to take away this not playing guys for 2 weeks thing. That's how I really believe it. And I really hope Giannis plays on Thursday.
So, strictly for Giannis, Pat Connaughton was asked about Giannis, and I have the quote on my phone. I wanted to read it, what he said. And it's kind of a weird thing. Somebody was asking Pat Connaughton about Giannis and then injuries. And this is what Pat Connaughton said, how things actually work in the NBA around injuries. He said, when you sprain your ankle, you ice your ankle. He said, I don't know if I've ever used ice since I've been in the NBA. He said, it's movement, it's working out the swelling, it's flushing it, it's physical therapy, it's doing things to put the ankle in a position to re-strengthen itself. And he mentioned Giannis's work ethic. He said it's work ethic that Giannis has. If he's ever nicked up, banged up, for some people it would take a while to come back. For him, he's in the gym again the next day, and he wants to do things to put his body in a position to get back to not just that same strength he had prior to the injury, but to be stronger than he was prior to the injury. So we're in an age where sports medicine has progressed so far that these things should be easier to prevent and to recover from.
Yeah.
I mentioned it. I know you saw it the other day that, as much as people talk about the 90s and how hard the 90s were and how physical it was and how nobody today could play in the 90s because it was so tough and there was fights and, guys fouled guys to hurt them. And there were tons of guys playing the full 82 game season. Like you could look at John Stockton. I think he played all 82 games like 7 years in a row. And then, a guy like Kawhi Leonard who sits out the second half of back-to-backs all the time just because he's playing too much and he's tired. Like, I don't know. Maybe that's something that, like you said, that Adam Silver needs to figure out, whether it's scheduling less back-to-backs. You have an 82-game season and games run from the beginning of November until the end of April and then the playoffs start. Like, I mean, that's a 6.5 month stretch if you cut out the All-Star break, that you can spread out those 80 games and you just have the teams play basically every other day, and you kind of make the schedule so that there's less travel, or that the travel is grouped together more. Like the Bucks just got done with a 6-game road trip. They came play one game at home and then they're back on the road for 3 more games.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, you can work with a schedule like that. As far as shortening the season, my thought is if you do shorten it, maybe just make it, they're playing a 72 game season, maybe make it 72 games. And what they're doing is this year they're having the play-in tournament for the 7 to 10 seeds in each conference. So if you're going to do something like that, if you keep the play-in tournament for the playoffs, that then maybe you should shorten the season just by about 10 or 15 games, because you're adding more games to the playoffs and giving more teams chances to get into the playoffs. So that's where I'm at. So that was my thought on it. And then let us know. I mean, this is something we can absolutely revisit anytime. Anytime injuries, Jamal Murray getting hurt. It's perfect time to bring this up. That's why I wanted to bring it up. As I was pulling up that Pat Connaughton quote, I just saw that the Nuggets are now favorites to land Austin Rivers. Obviously, that makes sense with their star point guard going down. Yeah. So, this is something we can bring up any time of the year. Let us know what you think. We can revisit this anytime. It's a conversation that comes up a lot. And like you said, with load management, that's something that's always at the forefront of it when, a guy is out for rest. I get it. PJ Tucker, like obviously when he's got like a calf strain, like you hold him out a couple extra games because he's 35 years old. Kawhi Leonard's not 35.
Yeah, man. It takes longer time for his body to recover, man.
Right. So like when it comes to a guy like that, I understand. But just sitting out Kawhi Leonard, who's I think 29, for rest, really? That's I don't want to say that the fans are more important than the players. Whatever, everybody's, equal or whatever, but, the fans do pay money to come and watch the players. I mean, that's what they're there for. They're there for the entertainment of watching the best basketball players play the game. So you show up at a game on a Saturday night and you're like, oh yeah, I'm really excited. I get to watch, the Bucks play the Clippers. And then, Kawhi Leonard and Paul George aren't playing because they're resting because they played the night before. And then the Bucks win 130 to 90 because the Clippers don't have their 2 stars.
It's great you got to see the Bucks win, but that's not why you bought those tickets, right?
Right.
If I go to the game next week and Embiid or Simmons is resting, I'm going to be a little upset because I picked that game because I want to see Embiid and Simmons go against Giannis, Middleton, and Drew Holiday. And I want to see 2 of the top teams duke it out, man. That's why I picked for that.
That's what you're going to those games for. You want the entertainment value of seeing the best players.
100%.
And we talked about it during the Packers season when players are injured. Like you want to beat teams when they're at their best. Like, a win is a win and, it helps your standings, but, that doesn't help when we're talking about the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And that's however you want to frame it, that load management is so that guys are healthy for the playoffs, or, that the whole NBA season is just focused on getting to the playoffs. So they should have a shorter season because the playoffs are what matters. Like it's like I said, this is a discussion we can have 5 times a year and have a different stance and different points to bring up every time.
Yeah.
So we want to get input on this subject, as well as stuff like the corner 3-pointer. And we'll continue talking about different potential rule changes for the NBA and other sports as we continue the show. So
yeah, I was gonna say if anybody watching, if you guys have any rule changes, if you're an NFL guy or girl, if you're an MLB boy or girl, if you have any rule changes that like you're thinking of, please leave them in the comments, send them to us, message us, whatever, and we'll talk about it. We'll give you our opinion about it. We're open to all discussions. We are two very middle of the road guys that can see both sides of the conversation.